Today, I'm signing the law of the Chips and Science Act, a once-in-a-generation investment in America itself. Today, I'm ordering my administration to be laser-focused on the guardrails that will protect taxpayers' dollars. This includes requirements that companies building these semiconductor facilities pay Davis-Bacon prevailing wage to ensure the tens of thousands of new construction jobs are union jobs.
As is evidenced by the video you just watched, Joe Biden promised when he signed the $52 billion CHIPS Act that jobs would be created for America, well-paying jobs, union jobs. But is that actually coming to fruition? Because according to a new report, one of the potential beneficiaries of the CHIPS Act, which is a Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing company, TSMC for short, they're planning to not use American workers or unionized workers. They're planning on importing workers from around the world in order to build their massive facility in Arizona. Now, a recent investigation by the American Prospect has revealed that said facility has been plagued with safety violations and alleged wage theft. We'll get to those details in just a moment. There is a lot to cover. So let's start with how this company, this Taiwanese company, TSMC, is doing what's called internal offshoring, aka bringing workers into the United States in order to build their semiconductor factory and chips in America. Here's what 3 anonymous chip supply chain executives told Nikkei Asia. Over Nikkei Asia. So TSMC and its suppliers are in talks with the US government to assist with the application process for non-immigrant visas in a bid to dispatch more than 500 experienced workers as early as July to expedite the construction of clean room facilities and the installation of pipes and other equipment. Now, according to one of those executives, American workers don't have enough experience building semiconductor manufacturing factories, which has led to slowdowns for this company's Arizona facility. That is what they're alleging. And according to a report by the New York Times, insiders at this company have the nerve to insult American workers even while the company exploits them. So some TSMC engineers said that they were concerned about how the Arizona factory would blend American and Taiwanese employees. In Taiwan, engineers work long hours and weekend shifts, joking that they sell liver to work for the chip manufacturer, they said. Such sacrifices may be less appealing to employees in the United States, they said. One former TSMC engineer had this to say, quote, the most difficult thing about wafer manufacturing is not technology. The most difficult thing is personnel management. Americans are the worst at this because Americans are the most difficult to manage. And in response to the news, the president of the Arizona Building Trades Council told the American Prospect simply, it's a effing disgrace. Cenk.
Yeah, so mixed thoughts on this one. What do I mean? First, hungry people are generally going to work harder than non-hungry people. That's just a fact of life, right? So, but then these companies that are based abroad kind of brag about it. They're like, our citizens are in much worse shape, so they've got to even sell their liver to be able to work for us. Ha ha ha, that's so funny. And then they're gonna work their lives away for us because they're hungry and their family's hungry and they need to do something about it. You guys aren't as hungry. Can you believe you just want to work a normal job and get paid a normal salary? We hate you. Well, okay. I mean, there's a little bit of truth to the fact that yes, like I said, hungry people sometimes work harder. But I don't think that's a thing you should brag about. That's point one. Point two is, as usual, what I can't stand is the political lies. So here, one of our, somebody in a super chat wrote in, or one of our members wrote in saying that Biden is the gaslighter in chief, okay? And there's a lot of truth to that. So he's like, oh my God, we're gonna do the semiconductors here in America. And well, first of all, that sounds good. That's a good start. You do want it made in the USA. There's a good reason why they need to be made in the USA, okay? And it's good politics, so lots of wins there, right? But then he says, like, don't worry, we get the jobs. We got the jobs, right? And it's guaranteed this, that, and the other thing. No, it's not. No, it's not. So Intel fired thousands of people right after the CHIPS Act passed. They got $52 billion of our money. Our money, my money, your money, went to billionaires. The CEO of Intel made $179 million that year alone. But he fired thousands of people. Did Biden put in protections? Nope, he didn't put in protections.
That was in the initial writing of the legislation, but wow, what a shocker, that provision didn't make it. But that's the thing, Biden is aware of that. So when he is selling this legislation to the American people in a speech, which you saw in the video we showed you in the very beginning of the story, why does he feel the need to lie to us about how this is gonna create all these wonderful, well-paying union jobs? Especially when he knows full well that there are no safeguards in place in the final law that ensures that these factories are employed by American workers. And that's the part that really bothers me, just like the flat out lie to sell this to the American people. And look, I support manufacturing chips here in the United States. I think that the coronavirus pandemic showed the fragility of our supply chains, relying on every other country to produce what we need here in the United States puts us in a vulnerable situation. So just the act of ensuring that we are manufacturing chips here in the United States is great. I would also like to see some safeguards to prevent these corporations from selling the chips to other countries without prioritizing us here in the US. So that's another issue that I have with the outcome of that legislation. But Cenk, why don't you jump in?
Yeah, so look, we try really hard to be fair on this show. So when Trump bullied an American corporation into not outsourcing, keeping jobs here, the left were like, how could you possibly bully a poor company like that? And I remember doing a video, it was at an airport. I don't know why that sticks in my mind, but I was like, no. The president should bully the companies to keep the jobs here. He's supposed to look out for us. I'm like, this is a rare thing that Trump did right. So we're honest about that. And by the way, you know what happened afterwards? As usual, Trump was full of crap. And later, that same company fired thousands of people and Trump didn't do anything about it. He was just huffing and puffing. It was just marketing, right? At least it's smart marketing, but he was a liar and he lied about that. He didn't do a goddamn thing and they outsourced jobs. Now we go to Biden. And by the way, the left was super mad about that. They were mad about the so-called bullying, and then they were mad that thousands of people lost their jobs and Trump was a liar. So now Biden does something very similar. He goes, I'm gonna keep the jobs here and the semiconductor, I'm gonna funnel the $52 billion to my corporate donors. I mean the semiconductor industry, because of you, I'm gonna keep the jobs here. Bring them in from Taiwan, bring them in, yep. And fire our guys, no problem at all. Go ahead.
And not just from Taiwan, I wanna be clear, all over the world. They're bringing in workers from all over the world instead of using American labor for this.
And then, so now the right wing goes, Biden's so terrible, and the left wing goes, no. When things are inconvenient, you just ignore them. So when Biden's a liar, we say that's not the same as Trump. He's a good liar. He's got a good heart. He's from Scranton. It takes Amtrak all the time. I don't give a goddamn. He's a liar.
So let's talk a little bit about what these facilities are like. Now, the company alleges that no, look, when it comes to building the facilities, when it comes to building the factories, yes, we're bringing in some workers from other countries, but this is temporary. They'll leave after that, as if that's supposed to make us all feel better about the fact that they're refusing to use American labor for this. But nonetheless, there's an excerpt from a report, an investigative report that was done by Lee Harris about these facilities, TSMC's facility, which was published before the news of the additional 500+ workforce, and that they're bringing in from other countries. And this is what Lee Harris reports in the American Prospect, quote, I went to Phoenix to interview construction workers on site and found that while some union contractors have secured jobs at Fab 21, most workers at the site are non-union. Many are international migrants and out-of-state workers. So even prior to this latest report breaking, the one that we're sharing with you, they were already leaning heavily on migrant workers who would come here, do the work, and potentially be sent out of the country after their jobs are done. Specifically, Harris claims that only about 3,000 of the 12,000 employees at the facility are American union workers. TSMC has partnered with a Taiwanese company called Proper SYS or Proper Sys to help build the facility. One worker posed as a recruiter and ended up recording their conversation with an office administrator with this third party. The worker asked Proper Sys employee or the Proper Sys employee whether his relatives with work visas could work on the site. Quote, most of our guys are women from Taiwan, so we're very familiar with work visas, the administrator replied. If one of his work visas is being processed, would he still be able to apply and get it while the work visa is coming in? The worker pressed. Yeah, the administrator said. Like, we have a couple of people and it all is by situation, but we do have some people who are currently on student visas here. And they've already been hired for a job when they graduate and get their work visa, so upcoming visas as well. So not only have they been leaning on migrant workers, not only are they currently leaning on migrant workers with this latest report of 500 plus people being brought in from out of the country, but they intend to continue, at least there's some indication they intend to continue to do so moving forward.
All right, so two more things. One is, I don't want people to get the wrong idea. So do you have to pay a little bit higher wages in America than you do in some of these other countries? Yes, you do, okay? On the other hand, is it the idea that American workers are lazy, is that true? No, that is not at all true. I've seen the graphs, so this is not anecdotal, or this is not my opinion, this is just facts. The productivity in America is sky high. And it's been sky high for decade after decade. And part of the reason productivity is so high is because now a lot of us have to take 2 jobs. The husband and the wife have to work, and the productivity keeps piling on. So the idea that Americans are lazy is totally and utterly not true, okay? But they just keep saying it for their own economic interests. The second thing is that what I was gonna get to anyway, but it's one of our members asked a great question that's a perfect lead into it. Rainbow Bright wrote in, I love how they say creating union jobs while allowing union busting and never passing union protections into law. Am I missing something? Yes, let me tell you why you're seeing that phenomenon. Because unions also give campaign donations, and primarily to Democrats. So that's why Democrats like Joe Biden are like, we're gonna create the union jobs and union, right? But wait, they never actually do any protections as you're talking about.
That's unfair. No, the NLRB under the Biden administration, relatively speaking, has been good.
So for Biden and the NLRB, that is correct. And we've given you some of the upsides and downsides. When I say they never do the things, I'm referring to what Rainbow Bright mentioned, which is passing laws. So every time a Democrat comes in, Obama, Biden, Clinton, et cetera, we're gonna pass the PRO Act. We're gonna make sure that these union protections are there. And they never, ever pass them. They don't even come close. And most of the time they don't even propose it. Why? Because they get a lot more campaign donations from corporations. So they go, hey, thank you very much, suckers at the union. And for your 20%, those corporations are giving me 80%, even for Democrats. I'm gonna do exactly what they want. But you guys, I'll say some of the stuff that I do for them will create jobs for you guys. I'm not gonna give you any protections, I'm not gonna pass any bills, but the best anyone's done among the Democrats, to be fair to Biden, is have a strong NLRB like Biden does. That's like at this much, but he's like, I gave you crumbs, what else you want, right? Pass legislation, I'm gonna pass legislation, ruin the idea that I can get more corporate contributions. So hence, I'll say, I'm past this bill, I gave $50 billion to my donors, but you guys will get more jobs. Later, you find out you didn't. That's because the other guys bribed Biden and the Democrats and all of the Republicans more than you bribed them. Welcome to American politics.
And the allergic reaction to potentially hiring actual American unionized workers has a lot to do with what corporations love about deregulation here in the United States. And it's being able to cut corners with impunity. So for instance, if you look at what the injuries look like for employees over at TSMC, well, not so great. So Harris's investigation found that the TMC factory suffers from widespread safety issues. Luke Casper, a representative of SMART, the sheet metal workers union, said the following: "It's easily the most unsafe site I've ever walked on. I've been in the trade 17 years. Everyone that works at the hall and out there on site agrees it's by far the most dangerous, unorganized job site they saw." And so, for instance, one worker in his 60s allegedly fell off a ladder and ended up breaking up both of his legs. And there are other examples. Coworkers have fallen from great heights through scaffolding and flooring. And all of this, you should keep in mind as this particular company applies for certain tax credits. I want to go to graphic 9 here. TSMC is angling to receive tax credits and grants from recent federal legislation totaling up to $15 billion, and that's according to the Wall Street Journal.
No, look, that's such a great example of the crime that is American politics. Because they say, look guys, we gotta give the grants to these corporations, not because they're bribing us, no. Their campaign contributions are coincidental, totally coincidental. I mean, I took the money and I used it for fame, wealth, status, etc. But we're not doing it because we're doing it to create jobs.
Right.
And then they say, well, did you create jobs? They go, well, no, I just gave it to more Taiwanese people and I made sure that nobody in the union could get it and Americans can't get it. And I brought in all these foreign workers and I fired the Americans. But wait, I thought you were giving them our money so that we could at least have jobs, American jobs. Oh, that was a lie because you just took a bribe. But do mainstream media journalists explain that to you? No, they earnestly write, they did it for the jobs. And they never come back and go, oh, sorry, our bad. Trump and Biden were both liars. Well, they say Trump's a liar, but not Biden, not Biden. No, that $15 billion, they had to give taxpayer money to a foreign corporation and get no American jobs in return. They had to do it. No, they didn't have to do it. They get bribed on a regular basis and they do it for their own greed. Politicians are not to be respected, okay? Politicians are usually the worst of us, not the best of us. Don't believe mainstream media. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.